I named the episode Love Deeply. And I've got this funny picture behind me of this funny looking character, and he's in the laboratory playing with things, kind of an alchemist or a creator, mad scientist. Reminds me of what I used to do. I started playing with chemistry as chemistry sort of hobby in the sixth grade. And my parents got me, one of those great big boxes that called a chem lab, right? Had some test tubes and some chemicals in it, and a bunch of experiments that you could do, and I really enjoyed that. And that hobby went on for me for all the way through high school, and it morphed shape in all kinds of different ways. But it was something that I really enjoyed. So that's one of the reasons I like this picture, is the chemistry piece. This is Valentine's week. Valentine's week is this week. And Tuesday is Valentine's Day, the day for lovers. And some people object to the idea because it's a Hallmark holiday and commercialized and so forth. But let's just set that aside for a minute and talk about love. Today, tomorrow, and Tuesday, I've got a series we're going to do about love. And today's is titled Love Deeply, and tomorrow's I'm going to say Love Fiercely, and Tuesday, Love Joyously. And then Tuesday night, I've got a fun thing. If you don't know about this already, go to latalkradio.com and go under the shows, and Your Ultimate Life is Tuesday evening at 4, or Tuesday late afternoon at 4 p.m. California time, and evening 7 p.m. Eastern time. I have a great guest for this show. It's Dr. Iyanla VanZandt, who you may know or know of. She's a life coach and has had a television program and was associated with Oprah Winfrey for a while. So she's going to be my guest, and we're going to talk about love. We're going to talk about what it is, what it means, way beyond the notion of romantic, but the kind of love that saves souls and even saves humanity. The kind of love that causes extraordinary things to happen. Today's Sunday, and I went to church, and because I play the organ in my church congregation, and I love doing that. I get a chance to sit up where I get to look out at the congregation, and I like doing that. I like being up there, and I like being able to contribute to the meeting and do the very best job I can playing, and while they sing hymns. It's not me playing, but it's a congregational singing, and I enjoy that. And today, all the talks were about love. And because it was church, they were, in the religious context, and took stuff out of the Bible about loving your neighbor and loving God and how God loves us and all that sort of stuff. But there were a lot of nuggets out of that apply across everything, whether you want to put it in a religious context or not. So the next 3 days are not going to be about religion, but it is going to be about the truth of your soul. It is going to be about what love really means. And today, I wanted to talk about loving deeply. Deeply. Now, that word deep, right? There's a phrase that says, still waters run deep. What does that mean? Well, you can say whatever, but sometimes in a moving creek, the still waters, where it doesn't look like it's moving fast to the deepest. Now, it's interesting because on my grandfather's farm in Wyoming, there was a spring. It's in a place in Wyoming where there are springs in a lot of places, and it's a beautiful valley. And my grandfather homesteaded there, and my uncle ran a dairy farm there for a long time. I don't think they do dairy farming there anymore, but my uncle's sons and daughters live there, and my mom lives in the old homestead. She was actually born there. But anyway, up in the field above the house, the old house where my mom was born, there's a spring. And that spring is consistent and runs year-round, all year long, and it puts out a good bit of water. And that water forms a creek, And that creek runs from up in the pasture, maybe 100 or 100 yards to 200 yards up from the house, and runs down the hill and, out through the yard and then down the side of the road and joins other streams of water a mile or so up and moves on. But as it moves through the property, there's actually enough water that at one time my grandfather had a little sawmill there. So there's enough water and enough vertical drop that they could actually turn a saw and cut lumber. And that's how I built the house and the barn and things like that. But anyway, in that stream, there are places where it runs rapidly, like fast. The water's fast moving because the drop is pretty good across the property. Not steep, but there's enough drop that the water's really moving. And there are some places where the water just moves and it looks turbulent and you can hear it, that sloshing and gurgling of a brook. And there are a couple of places where it looks almost still. And it's funny because going into that still place, it's moving quickly, and coming out of the still place, it's moving quickly. And that's always been an example to me of the still waters run deep, because there, in that little place, the creek bed is deep compared to other parts of it. So that's the object lesson for me of still waters run deep. So if we talk about loving deeply, deeply means it goes way down. It has roots. And it's rooted in the truth of who you are. So I want you to pick one or maybe two examples of someone in your life that you love, and you would describe your love for them as deep. What are the characteristics of loving deeply? Maybe you have a list of things that you would do. Well, I would do this. Or you might even say there's nothing I wouldn't do for that person or that thing. Describe. I'd like you to use some language. Describe what deep love means for you. Now, today in church, we were talking about, parables like the Good Samaritan and loving your neighbor and that sort of thing. And those are good examples, because followers of any divinity, regardless of religion, I'm in the Christianity, but regardless, love is the foundation of growth. It is the foundation of progress. It's the foundation of truth. So we've talked a lot about loving yourself. Why would you love yourself deeply? Well, I can think of a bunch of good reasons. You're a divine being. You are carefully, lovingly created by God. You were put here to have an experience, a divine spirit in a mortal body. And by mortal, I mean that we die at some point. A divine being. Some people say you're the universe having an experience as a human being. Okay. All of that is divine and infinite, and you're having an experience here as a human being. I know from my own experience and learning that loving myself deeply enhances that experience. And I don't just mean it makes me feel better and have more fun. It makes more out of me, because in loving myself deeply, I feel more love toward others. I feel more inclined to serve and to lift and to bless and to go places and do things to help people live their lives in a more joyful and successful way. Now, as we begin these 3 days on love, I want to define it. Love is one of those words that everybody's got a definition of, and I'm not trying to tell you what yours is. How I define love is a choice, not a feeling. The choice brings the feeling. Love is a choice, and it's a verb. To love someone, to me, means to use my resources to serve them. Now, there's a little more to it than that, and we'll go there. To use my resources to serve them. Well, what resources? Well, I arbitrarily use acronyms, SPEM, spiritual, physical, emotional, and mental. So if I choose to joyfully and happily use my spiritual resources, my physical resources, which might include money and things, my emotional resources, my mental resources, to serve somebody, to help them, to lift them, to help them along, to help them learn or succeed or grow, then I love them. I love them. That's true in a relationship where you have a parent and a child. It's true in a relationship between partners. If I think about my relationship with my wife, Joy, I do that all the time. I intentionally think, how can I use my resources, spiritual, physical, emotional, mental, to serve her and bless her life, make her feel appreciated and cared for and recognized and acknowledged and all of those good things, because I want to. But it starts with loving myself. Now, that for me was a huge problem for many years. It's not anymore, but it used to be a huge problem because I'd made so many mistakes, done so many things that I viewed as wrong, I felt bad about or guilty about, that I found it very, very difficult to love myself because I blamed myself for a whole bunch of things that were wrong. Well, if I hadn't done this, then all these problems wouldn't have existed. Well, number one, I don't even know that because you never know how things are going to turn out. And two, even if it is true, not loving yourself isn't the answer, because all that does is compound the consequences. Whatever I did, or you did, that caused whatever you think it caused, whether it did or not, let's pretend for a moment that it did cause that, is already in existence. Loathing yourself instead of loving yourself doesn't fix what is broken, and it continually saddles me or you with the albatross of guilt. So forgiving myself and loving myself again, cleaning up what I can, I don't mean you walk off and ignore it, you don't. But loving yourself, which includes forgiveness, is the only place to start if you want to live a happy life. Loving yourself is the only place to start if you want to live a productive life, if you want to create income and impact using your divine gifts, which is what we're talking about all the time. If you want to make a difference in the world, and whether you monetize it or not is up to you. You know, you can choose to turn it into a business, monetize it, or you can choose just to be of service. It doesn't even matter. Choosing to use your gifts as service is the key. If you want to monetize it, then you should, because it gives people the opportunity to express gratitude in the form that we do, our exchange medium, which is money. So loving yourself is the foundation for learning to love deeply. Now, here's a truth that it took me a long time to find out, and I used to disagree with it violently, and that is this: I can't love someone else more than I love myself. Now, people are going to immediately, flail and say, not true, not true. And I'll tell you something. If you think that's not true, then that means you're just going through the motions of loving someone else. Because if you don't take care of your own spirit, your own heart, if you don't value the divine creation that you are and care for it and love it, you can't love another person. You might do external things for them, but it does not feel the same. It does not create the same truth in the universe as when it is done from love, from you as a person who loves yourself. Think of great people who've done sacrifices that you may know. We have Mother Teresa was an example of this, and there's lots of stuff that's been published about her and her thoughts. People like Gandhi who made an effort to serve. I know they had enormous self-love. And if you go back and talk about legendary figures like Christ and as the Son of God, there's no way he could have done what he did in life without loving himself. And I could go on with all kinds of examples, but loving yourself deeply is a prerequisite. So what does deeply mean? It means powerfully enough to get past all the superficial nonsense. And it doesn't feel like nonsense when it's happening. So I had something happen recently in my life where I did something. I tried to do a really good job. And I don't know the final outcome of doing the thing that I did, but right this minute, it does not look good. It does not look like it's going to go the way I thought. It does not look like, no matter how much effort I put into it with my whole heart and soul, like I'm going to get the desired outcome. There's a real easy thing to have happen in that case, and that is, I suck, I screwed up, I didn't do enough, I should have done this, oh well, and then be frustrated or angry at myself or at the universe or somewhere out there. Here's the truth. The truth is I did everything I could. And a set of circumstances happened, and this is the outcome. I don't control the outcome. I controlled my effort. Loving myself means I am satisfied deeply with my effort. I wish and yearn with all my heart for a certain outcome, and if something else happens, I am still satisfied with my effort and love myself for the conscientious and effort and work that I did. Okay. I can also love deeply and with great care those people for whom perhaps this didn't go as well as planned. Right? So all of those things can be done in a basket of, sorry, I knocked my bottle over, a basket of deep love, regardless of the outcome. Outcome, it does not decide the level of the love that went in, the level of love between parties. Love is the energy that binds things together. So let's say you tried to help a friend build something, and you did the best you could, and they did too, and it didn't work. It fell down. Or you try to start a business together, and it fails. If you love them and gave all your effort, and you together loved the business and gave all your effort, and it failed, it does not have to change your love for yourself or them or the relationship between you. It often does, but it doesn't need to. We start blaming and we start getting frustrated and negative. Everything happens for a reason, and at a very minimum, there is always powerful and good stuff that we can learn from everything. We certainly weren't put here in this world to have everything go like we want, not even sort of. And in fact, the world is full of examples. We've got war, and we've got injustice and riots in Iran and injustice in Afghanistan and all kinds of stuff going on that proves that stuff is rough. Our opportunity is to do two things. In our own circumstance, make the very most out of everything that we experience, whether we wanted it or not. Choose to let it refine us. That's a choice. Choose to let it refine us and help us grow, regardless of what it is. The other thing we can do is all that we can to help other people and other circumstances. That might mean sending money somewhere. It might mean supporting a cause. It might mean a lot of things. But those are the only things we can do. And if you and I, if we do that together, we are loving ourselves and others deeply, and we are making the difference in the world that we can. Now, my commitment this year is to help 50 million people to discover their divine gifts and to choose to serve with them, which is along the lines of exactly what we're talking about. Often I talk about creating a business, making income and impact from what you love. That is a manifestation of serving with your divine gifts. My commitment is to find and help 50 million people. I'd love to help you if I can. If you'll let me know or reach out, then I might be able to do that, and I'd love to have a conversation. So let's see what we can create together as we learn to love deeply. We'll see you tomorrow on the road to 50 million.